Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing our wide receiver start or sit decisions for every single matchup on the week. Inside today's video, we'll begin by discussing Thursday Night Football, then move into every single game on Sunday, and close out the video with Monday Night Football. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask, if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you have any questions about anything related to start or sit decisions, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, tight end, ask down below in the comment section. I love to talk to you guys on there. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into this breakdown of wide receivers for week number 1 of the 2022 season. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills at the LA Rams, and in this game, I like both teams starting wide receiver duos. For the Buffalo Bills, we got Stefon Diggs as well as Gabe Davis. You invested either a first or second round fantasy football pick on Stefon Diggs, so you're obviously going to be playing him in this matchup. I understand some people start to panic because, oh, Stefon Diggs is going up against Jalen Ramsey. Well, guess what? When you have a wide receiver with the skill set of Stefon Diggs, it wouldn't surprise me if he had an excellent game here up against Jalen Ramsey, and I'm also not 100% sure that Jalen Ramsey is even going to shadow Stefon Diggs, so I think Stefon Diggs will get to go up against other corners in this game as well, and I expect Stefon Diggs to put up a solid point total here, as I believe this could be a very high-scoring game, despite both defenses being really good. For the Buffalo Bills as well, I do like Gabe Davis. Now, Gabe Davis's ADP this draft season was all over the place. You'd see him go in the 5th round in some drafts, and you'd see him go in like the 8th, 9th round in some other fantasy football drafts where people aren't as clued in. Going up against the LA Rams, this game has all the makings of a shootout, a back and forth affair, and I think Gabe Davis could go absolutely crazy in this game, so I definitely want to start him. Cooper Kupp, you drafted him super early on in the draft. You want to be starting your studs. You're going to play Cooper Kupp, and Tre'Davious White is not going to be playing in this game, so I love Cooper Kupp even more up against the Bills defense. And then Allen Robinson, I understand that last year this guy was an immense disappointment. He was a bust in fantasy football. This year, you kind of have to pay the same price as you did last year, but now he's on the LA Rams with Matthew Stafford and not on the Justin Fields-led Chicago team with Matt fucking Nagy as the head coach. So I expect Allen Robinson to have a great week 1 performance up against the Buffalo Bills. The other players in this game for the Bills, we have Isaiah McKenzie as well as Jamison Crowder. Isaiah McKenzie right now, as I'm recording this video on Monday, is iffy to play. I'm not saying that he's not going to play. I'm not saying that he's going to play. Either way, I'd probably rather just sit him down for this game and then give this game and let it be like a feeler, right? How often is Isaiah McKenzie playing if he's healthy? Is he in a lot more than Jamison Crowder? Or is it like 50-50, and then you realize that maybe I don't want to be starting McKenzie or Crowder? That's kind of how I'm treating this game, so I'm going to sit both of them down, even if McKenzie is able to go. And then for the LA Rams, they also have Van Jefferson. I don't think Van Jefferson is a lock to go in this game either. A couple days ago, there was a report by Sean McVay saying that he's making progress. I doubt that means that he's even going to play in this matchup, but if he doesn't, I'd rather just go with the 2 starting wide receivers, Kupp and Robinson, and not try to overthink this and play some random ass wide receiver from the LA Rams. Now we move to the beginning of the Sunday slate with the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. We just got an update on Falcons wide receiver Drake London, who says he is good to go for Sunday's action, and I expect this to be a game where Drake London plays pretty decently. I don't think he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver on the week up against the Saints defense, but I do think he is start worthy, even with Marcus Mariota under center. I know some people don't really like Mariota, but Mariota's a little bit better than people give him credit for, right? He's not this dog shit player that doesn't at least deserve to start a couple of games in the NFL this year. For the Saints, Michael Thomas is a humongous risk to start in week number 1. Michael Thomas in this game is either going to take the Atlanta Falcons defense and absolutely run train on them, or Michael Thomas is going to be dog shit in this game. I really don't see a scenario where this game plays out and Michael Thomas has like 13 PPR points, right? I'm thinking Michael Thomas is either going to go crazy and score like 20 plus points, or he's going to score like 4 points. Like, I don't see a middling outcome for Michael Thomas in this game. So if you're risky, you got some big balls, then you can go ahead and play Michael Thomas. But I'm not saying that he's a guy that is a must-start wide receiver on the week, as he is far from that because of the risk factor. Chris Olave does appear to be in a very good position this year with this Saints offense in his rookie year, being the maybe #1 wide receiver for Jameis Winston if Michael Thomas isn't the guy he was in the past. Jameis and Chris Olave appear to have a very good connection, so I definitely would be firing up Chris Olave in week 1 up against the Falcons D. For the other players in this game, Jarvis Landry is an interesting late round pick because if Michael Thomas isn't up to speed, then I could see Jarvis Landry getting a crazy amount of targets on this team. As we've seen throughout his career, this guy is a target monster. But there's also a chance that Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry is pretty irrelevant in terms of redraft fantasy football and wanting to start him on a week in, week out basis without your team being down bad or on a bye week. Bryan Edwards is interesting for the Falcons as he was a guy we talked about last year with the Las Vegas Raiders. I think he might be a better player than people give him the credit for, but again, it's week 1. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were multiple other wide receivers that end up being higher up than him on the depth chart in the wide receiver hierarchy of the Falcons. So Bryan Edwards will be a sit for me in week 1. Next up, we move to the Cleveland Browns at the Carolina Panthers for Baker Mayfield's revenge game. Now, we have seen the whole career of DJ Moore unfold thus far, and it has been great, aside from one thing. DJ Moore could not score more than 4 touchdowns in any year in the NFL. And this guy has had a crazy amount of quarterbacks. People always talk about, oh, Terry McLaurin, this young wide receiver with so much talent, who we're to talk about a little bit later. If only he had a good quarterback. If only fucking DJ Moore had a quarterback that was competent in the red zone, then DJ Moore would be a guy that some people might say is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Now, Baker Mayfield has been feeding this guy in the red zone in training camp. I understand that the Cleveland Browns overall have a pretty solid defense, but I think DJ Moore could have a huge game, and this could be a big revenge game for Mr. Baker Mayfield. For the Browns, I'm sitting Amari Cooper as well as Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, all these wide receivers for the Browns. I am someone who was a non-believer of Amari Cooper this offseason. Now, it's not that I don't think Amari Cooper is a good enough player, but the fact that Jacoby Brissett's bum ass is the starting quarterback of this team scares me immensely. Now, is it entirely possible that in week 1 and this whole season, while Jacoby Brissett is starting until Deshaun Watson comes back, that Amari Cooper is just funneled the ball? Like, this is a funnel system offense where Jacoby Brissett is just feeding the ball to Amari Cooper, even if he's not open. If that is the case in week 1, then I'm firing up Amari Cooper every single week, because even if Jacoby Brissett is awful, is atrocious, then if this is a funnel system, Amari Cooper will get so many targets that it won't matter. So we'll see week 1. I'd rather just not test things in week 1 and play Amari Cooper and expect something great. Now, obviously, Amari Cooper is a significantly better start than some of the players that I have listed as a sit in this video. So obviously, if you have any questions about Amari Cooper compared to your other players, make sure you leave it down below in the comment section. I love talking to you guys in the comment section and answering all of your questions. But as a whole, in a vacuum, I really don't want to be playing Amari Cooper this week, as well as Donovan Peoples-Jones. For the Panthers, they have some other wide receivers as well. Laviska Shenault, Terrence Marshall, Robbie Anderson. Used to be R-O-B-B-Y Anderson. Now he's R-O-B-B-I-E Anderson. Cool name change, I guess. But at the end of the day, not going to play him here. I think DJ Moore is the clear #1 in this offense, and then Christian McCaffrey is going to be seeing a crazy amount of targets as well up against the Browns. Next up, we move to the San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears. Now, last year, the 49ers wide receiver start/sit section of the video was always a disaster because Brandon Ayuk was in the doghouse. He was locked up like that song by Akon, and he was just stuck. He couldn't fucking get out. He was like your stepsister stuck in a goddamn laundry machine. He could not get out. And then eventually, towards the end of the season, he made that triumphant comeback out of Brandon Ayuk, or out of Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. So Ayuk is a very talented player. We've seen in training camp a lot of footage of Trey Lance letting that fucker fly to Brandon Ayuk. The Bears defense is not the Bears defense from a couple years ago, and they're certainly not the 85 Bears. So I think both Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel could play a big part in this game, and this game could be a certified blowout by the San Francisco 49ers and Trey Lance. Going to be very interesting to see what Deebo Samuel's usage is like in this game. Is Deebo going to be running the ball, or are they just going to be like, fuck it, Deebo's now just a wide receiver? I think Deebo's going to run the ball, but I'm interested to see what happened. Week number 1 is always so interesting, and the biggest issue with week number 1 is everyone is going to overreact. Deebo Samuel might get 1 carry in this game, and people are going to shit themselves and panic. So we will see. I like reacting to it, but always remember, don't completely overreact to week number 1. It's just one of a bunch of games in the season. For the Bears, I'm starting Darnell. Here comes the Mooney. Sure, the 49ers defense is tough. I agree with that. But the Bears are going to be getting destroyed anally by the 49ers. So they're going to have to throw the ball late in the game. And besides Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, who else are they going to throw the ball to? So you got to fire up Darnell Mooney here up against the Niners. I'm sitting all the other Bears receivers. Byron Pringle is technically, in my head, the number 2 receiver on the team. But it could be Equanimeous St. Brown. Could be one of the other receivers they have, but for now, we'll list Byron Pringle as the number 2. Do not be starting the chip man himself. Next up, we move to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are favorites in this game, but the problem with the Steelers at the Bengals is you got to throw the record book out the window. Now, Nick, every team is 0-0 right now. That's true, but if this game wasn't like week 6, the Steelers were 0-5, the Bengals were 5-0, the Steelers could whoop the ass of the Bengals. That's just what happens in the AFC North. This is an excellent matchup for me on paper. I think this is going to be a very interesting game. While the Bengals did update their offensive line is significantly better than last season, I worry that Joe Burrow is going to have his shit rocked by TJ Watt and this defensive line of the Steelers. I'm worried about that. But at the same time, even if that happens, Joe Burrow is good enough to throw the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. The Bengals could be going up against the combination of the best defense ever, and I would still play Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They are the clear number 1 and number 2 wide receivers on the team, and I think calling them 1 and 2 is fucking disrespectful to T. Higgins because there's more of a 1A and 1B type of offense with Chase and Higgins. I like both of them in this game, and they could both be top 3 wide receivers at the end of the week, even with the tough matchup. For the Steelers, Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky will be under center, and he was even named captain of the team today, and I'm not saying that that means that Kenny Pickett is not going to play at all this season. Kenny Pickett could easily play by like week 3, but that's just something to note. Kiss and Titties Trubisky to Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson was a player, like we were talking about with Amari Cooper, who was just the funnel receiver. Big Ben funneled the football to Deontay Johnson. Now, is Mitchell Trubisky going to basically just close his eyes and throw the ball to wherever Deontay Johnson is like Big Ben? Probably not. But Deontay Johnson is still the clear number 1 on the team, and I expect him to go to work up against the Bengals defense. For the other Steelers players, Chase Claypool and George Pickens, I'm very interested to see the hierarchy of targets in week 1. Is Chase Claypool clearly the number 2, or is George Pickens the guy who truck sticks the DBs like he's Ray Lewis? Is he the number 2? We'll see. That's why week 1 is important, so I don't want to roll out Claypool or Pickens in this matchup. Tyler, yeah, Boyd, I love this guy. I loved where I got him in fantasy drafts. I'm excited about him, but I don't want to start him this week. He's like a bye-week fill-in, or if you have a deep team, say you're starting 3 wide receivers, 2 flexes, then you throw out Tyler Boyd, because his upside is pretty solid. But in terms of just a normal league, I don't think you need to play Tyler Boyd in this game, because I don't think the Steelers' defense is that bad to where Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins can all go crazy in this matchup. Next up, we move to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Detroit Lions. In this game, we'll see if the Eagles are going to get their knee bitten off by the Lions and Mr. Dan Campbell. I love Dan Campbell. I like this game as a whole because I don't really see a clear favorite in this game. Now, the books have a favorite, but I don't really have a favorite in this game. This game could go either way. This is one of the biggest coin flip games in week number 1. I like both of these offenses. I don't love either of these defenses. The Eagles on paper have a pretty solid defense, but I don't love either of these defenses. So this could also be a game that calls for a huge score, a back and forth affair. A.J. Brown gets traded to the Tennessee Titans, or from the Tennessee Titans to the Eagles during the NFL draft, which was very interesting. AJ Brown, you drafted him very early on in your draft. You might not have had to pay second round draft capital because in some leagues he fell to the third round, but you paid a top 3 round pick on AJ Brown. You're going to fucking play him up against the Lions defense. DeVonta Smith. I have been someone that has been verbally very out on DeVonta Smith this season. Because while I think that he is a great player, he won the fucking Heisman. Of course he's a good player. I don't know if this situation for him is all that fruitful because he wasn't even that great last year when he was the clear number 1. Now they bring in AJ Brown. And this team runs the ball a lot. So I worry about DeVonta Smith. So I'd rather just bench him week 1. That's just how I see things. I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see DeVonta Smith have a good game. Then next week, I come back here, week 2, against whoever the fuck the Eagles play. Let's play DeVonta Smith. But right now, I'd rather just let him rest on the pine. For the Lions, I love DJ Chark this offseason. I really like DJ Chark. But week 1, I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens before I play this guy I drafted in the 14th fucking round over some other wide receiver that I potentially drafted significantly earlier. So right now, Chark is on the bench. Amon-Ra St. Brown is definitely a start. This offense and Jared Goff loves Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's the best player besides Swift on this team. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be seeing a ton of usage, so I like him a lot in week 1 up against the Eagles. Next up, we move to the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans, but before we break this down, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. They've been on the screen the whole entire video. If you use promo code STOCHASTIC, you'll receive a $100 first match deposit bonus, so if you deposit $100, you'll receive an additional $100. Underdog Fantasy is a best ball website. Best ball is the new hot thing in the streets of fantasy football. All you got to do is draft your team. That's it. You don't have to worry about calling up your buddy trying to make some stupid fucking trade on Wednesday night. He's too busy watching his kids. His kids? Yeah, he's just fucking busy. He doesn't answer the phone. Then you're like, fuck, what do I do? Or you don't have to sit up on Tuesday night doing waivers. Sitting there for 20,000 leagues. All you got to do is draft your team, and that's it. Underdog will even set your lineup for you with the highest scores in your lineup at the end of the week. And then at the end of the year, you can come back in January to a boatload of money. So make sure you guys do check out Underdog Fantasy. I love best ball. I do a lot of best ball drafts, and I love doing them on there. So back on into the video, the Colts at the Houston Texans. Here we're going to be firing up Michael Pittman Jr. up against the Texans. That should be a shock to absolutely fucking nobody. Michael Pittman is in a scenario where he could break out this year. Now, technically, he probably broke out last year, but people are still dubbing him as a breakout candidate in 2022. The Texans defense is soft as baby shit. I expect Michael Pittman to go crazy in this game. Brandon Cooks, the clear number 1 wide receiver for the Texans. I know most people don't like Mr. Giraffe Neck Davis Mills, but at the end of the day, Brandon Cooks has dominated the NFL, gotten over 1,000 yards so many years that he's been in the league with a bunch of different teams. He did it with Davis Mills last year. He can do it again in 2022, so I like Cooks, even up against a tougher Colts defense. For the sit category, I have talked up Paris Campbell, as well as Alec Pierce all offseason. I'm interested to see which one of these two guys is the number 2 wide receiver, because I think the number 2 wide receiver in this Matt Ryan Colts offense is going to be a fruitful position to be in. Who will it be? Paris Campbell, or will it be Alec Pierce? We will see. We shall see. So I'd rather see it on my bench rather than throw Campbell in my lineup. Campbell scores like 3 points and fucking Pierce scores 15. Then we know. At least in week 2, it'll look like, in that scenario, Pierce is the guy. Right now, gun to my head, I will tell you I think it's going to be Alec Pierce. Going to tell you I think it's Alec Pierce. But do I want to roll him out there week 1? No. So that's just kind of how I lean on this situation. Nico Collins is a guy that I really like. I really like Nico Collins. I liked him going into last season, his rookie year. Things didn't necessarily pan out, but with John Mechie getting drafted and he's not playing this season, Nico Collins is the clear number 2 on this team. So I like Collins. I'm interested in him. But again, that's an interest that I want to see from about a mile away, sitting down on my couch watching the TV. I don't want to see Nico Collins in my lineup week 1. I think he could be good, but I want to wait to see how things go. Next up, we move to the New England Deflatriots up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami, my favorite team. We're going to fire up Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle against the Patriots. No shit. Waddle has been banged up, but Waddle has been practicing. So we're good. And he also lost the whatever was on his leg. now gone. So we're all good. All good. The hype train doesn't need to stop. I'm the commander of the Waddle and Tyreek Hill hype train, of course. Choo choo. I like them this week up against the Patriots. The Patriots defense is not what the Patriots defense has been in the past. Now, we will see in week 1 how run heavy this Dolphins team is. Are the Dolphins going to just run the ball gently down the stream and destroy the Patriots that way? Or are they going to pass the ball? I'm thinking they're going to do a little bit of both. Tyreek Hill, you drafted him highly. You're going to play him. Same thing goes with Jalen Waddle. And there is some cases where you draft a guy early and you don't want to play him. Like in the running backs video that I did yesterday, running back starter sit. Check that out after this video. Don't leave yet. I talk about Breece Hall. You might have drafted him in the 4th round of your draft, but I'm not playing him week 1 because I don't like the matchup and I am unsure of the situation that he is in. But this is a much different situation. I like Tyreek Hill a ton. I like Jalen Waddle a ton here. And the Patriots defense doesn't scare me at all. And this offense, oh man. Oh man. All the reports I have seen is that this offense is an unmitigated disaster. That this is a dumpster fire offense. Mac Jones, I think, is a pretty talented quarterback. So I'm not going to stand here and, because I'm a Dolphins fan, tell you that Mac Jones is awful or something, right? I don't use my team bias of me liking the Dolphins in any fantasy football analysis. But I worry about what everyone's saying. Who is calling the plays for the offense? Their best case scenario would be not to let any of the stooges on the sideline do it and let Bill Belichick do it. I think that's the best case scenario at this point. This offense has struggled in training camp against a defense that I don't even think is very good. Devontae Parker, revenge game narrative, you guys know. Talked about it in this video. I love a revenge game. I always am excited for a revenge game. And as a Dolphins fan, in the back of my head, this feels like a game where Devontae Parker scores 2 touchdowns and throws up the double bird like Eli Manning on ESPN and just basically tells the world, or tells the Dolphins on a world stage, to go fuck themselves. I can see that happening, but I also think the Dolphins defense is just so good that Jakobi Meyers and Devontae Parker are going to struggle immensely. The one bright spot I will note in this Patriots offense, despite all of the bad going around, is Jakobi Meyers. So if there was one wide receiver to watch out for in this game in the Patriots, it's Meyers. But I have a feeling if the Dolphins are smart, which I think they are, Mike McDaniel will have Jakobi Meyers be shadowed by Xavier Howard. And if that's the case, Jakobi Meyers is going to struggle mightily. Next up, we move to the Baltimore Ravens at the Jumbo Jets. Yet another revenge game. Joe Flacco, the elite one, going up against his former Ravens. Now, I think Joe Flacco is awful at this stage in his career. At one point, that playoff run, when they win the Super Bowl, he looked amazing. Now, it's 2022. Not so good. Not so good. But Flacco is going to lock in heat-seeking missile to Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is going to be peppered, Salt Bay style, by Joe Flacco. I just really think Joe Flacco is going to lock onto this guy and just force feed him the fucking ball. The Jets are going to get pounded in this game. Pounded from the behind without any lube. And still, with that said, Elijah Moore is going to do good. I don't have confidence in Corey Davis or Garrett Wilson, but I do have confidence in Elijah Moore, so I'm going to fire him up. And in these videos, just so you guys know, I'm going to call Elijah Mitchell Elijah Moore, and I'm going to call Elijah Moore Elijah Mitchell. It's going to happen all the time. I don't know why. Because they're both Elijah M's, and it gets fucking confusing. Sorry, it's gonna happen, but I hope you understand what I'm talking about, because this is a receiver video, and the other video is a running back video. 2 different things. So it shouldn't be that confusing. But for some reason it is in my brain, so you hate to see it. So besides Elijah Moore, again, nothing with Wilson, nothing with Davis for week 1. Maybe when the MILF Hunter, Zach Wilson, returns, maybe then we could fire them up. For the Ravens, Rashad Master Bateman season, baby, up against the Jumbo Jets defense. He is going to make Sauce Gardner, he's going to cook Sauce Gardner up. Sauce Gardner is going to be burnt like bread, I guess. I don't know, what's something else you can burn? Whatever. Burnt. He's going to destroy him. He's going to sauce him up like that Little Uzi song. So I love Rashad Master Bateman up against the Jets. Seems like the Ravens' number 3 option on the team, so it's going to be Bateman and Andrews in some order. And then the number 3 option, out of reports, is Isaiah Likely, the second-string tight end for the Ravens. So don't be starting James Prochet or Devin Duvernay here, even in this very positive matchup up against the Jumbo Jets. Next up, we move to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Washington Commanders, the old football team. I honestly like the name football team better than Commanders. It was just fun. So for the Jaguars, I have hopped on the bandwagon, the Christian Kirk bandwagon. I don't think his bandwagon's very big. I don't think there's many people on it, but I'm on it. I'm on the Christian Kirk bandwagon, especially up against the Commanders, whose defense really isn't all that. Christian Kirk in the slot. This man's going to be getting a lot of targets. He got a lot of targets in that preseason action with Trevor Lawrence, so I love Kirk in this matchup. I'm still a believer in Marvin Jones, but Marvin Jones isn't a guy you want to be starting in a normal league, like unless you're in a 16-team league. For the Commanders, we're rolling out Terry McLaurin. We talked about Terry McLaurin a little bit when we were talking about DJ Moore, about how this guy has been destroyed by the fact that his quarterbacks have been bad. All of his quarterbacks have not been good at all. Now he gets Carson Wentz. Congrats. Now you got instead of a regular garbage can, now your garbage can is made out of gold with Carson Wentz. But Terry McLaurin is still so good that you got to be playing him up against the Jaguars. Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. I like Jahan Dotson a lot late in drafts. I want to see what happens with him and Curtis Samuel week 1, how much usage each of these guys gets, and what is the target competition here? Is Dotson clearly out-targeting Samuel, or is it close? And then it ends up just being a wash, and Dotson and Samuel are useless unless someone gets hurt. Knock on wood, though. We don't root for injuries. Next up, we move to the New York Football Giants at the Les Titans, the Tennessee Titans. Here, we are firing up Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney says he's good. I'm assuming he's good. The rest of these Giants wide receivers, yikes. Kenny Golladay legitimately doesn't even look like he's fucking trying. He does not look like he is trying at all. He goes out there, he runs a route. The dude looks like he's running through molasses. The guy legitimately sucks. And I'm a Kenny Golladay stan. I've loved Kenny Golladay in Detroit. I liked him in New York with the Giants, but he can't do it. He just isn't good. And I have to get that through my brain. He's not good. He's not good. And I just went on this fucking rant against this guy like I'm Skip Bayless yelling at Shannon Sharp. And now Kenny Golladay is going to score 3 fucking touchdowns against the Titans, probably. But he's a sit for me. He's not good. He is just not good. The Giants got reamed by his contract. Kadarius Toney, definitely worthy of a start, even up against the Titans defense. I think is pretty decent. Very good up against the run. They're all right against the pass. Robert Woods, he's the guy I like for now. I think Treylon Burks will be the number 1 receiver on the team. But for now, week 1, I want Robert Woods because I'm not sure how much Treylon Burks is even going to play. There's talk about Nick Westbrook, Kyle Phillips out-snapping Treylon Burks early. So don't want to be playing him week 1. I'd rather fire up Mr. Roberto Woods. And then Kenny Golladay, I already dug that guy a grave. Wan'Dale Robinson. I think it's Wan'Dale. Definitely like him. I'm interested in him. But again, interested from far away, right? I think Brian Daboll can fix things in New York. Just don't think week 1 I want to be starting a bunch of Giants. So we'll go with KT, Kadarius Toney, as well as Roberto Woods, Bobby Trees. Next up, we move to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Arizona Cardinals in what is going to be, it has to be, a high-scoring game. This is the kind of a game that on paper, you look at the screen, you see just the 2 logos, or even just Chiefs at Cardinals on your screen right now with these players, and you just ejaculate in your pants. You just do. Or you get a nice wet spot down there if you're a female, and you're like, damn. So excited for this game. So excited. Chiefs at Cardinals. The short king Kyler Murray versus the guy who is now in Fortnite, Patrick Mahomes. So excited. Juju Smith-Schuster, the king of TikTok, up against the Arizona defense. The Arizona defense has fallen off of a cliff. They're like Humpty Dumpty, and they fell off the goddamn wall. I like Juju in this matchup. I've talked about how I don't like Juju in fantasy drafts. I think he's going too high. I do, but in this matchup, I like him. Now we get into the risky point with the Chiefs. I want to fire up MVS, but with about 0 confidence. I have 0 zilch confidence in MVS. I think MVS this year is going to be boom or bust every week. I don't think MVS is going to have a game where he scores 9 points. I think he's going to be scoring either 17, 18, 19, 20 plus points, or he's going to score 4 points and get out-targeted heavily by Juju, and then like Travis Kelce, obviously, and maybe McCole Hardman plays good, and MVS sucks donkey cock. So that's just how I see things. I'm a risky player. I like to take risks, so I'll play him. But again, I don't expect him to be safe. He's not safe at all. For the Cardinals, I like Hollywood Brown without DeAndre Hopkins. Chef's kiss. Magnifique. I love this without DeAndre Hopkins. I think that starting out the season, before COD drops and Kyler Murray plays like shit, that's a joke, I guess, because there are numbers to prove that Kyler Murray plays worse when COD comes out and on double XP weekend, but we'll see. Maybe this year that's not the case. Hollywood Brown is going to play so good in this game. I expect a very high point total in this game, and I expect Hollywood Brown to put up a solid performance. Again, the other Chiefs wide receivers, I think Sky Moore or Hardman could have a good game because I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and I think it's going to be very unpredictable who the number 2 receiver is on this Chiefs team, but week 1, I just don't want to fire them up. And then Rondale Moore. Is Rondale Moore ever going to be good? He's only been in the NFL for a short amount of time, but I don't know. I just don't like Rondale Moore, if I'm being honest. Next up, we move to the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. I hope you turned your volume down. I hope you did, baby. That's my favorite part about all these videos is screaming Las Vegas Raiders. Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow against the Chargers. Chargers defense is amazing. You didn't draft Adams in the first round to sit his ass. You didn't draft Hunter Renfrow based upon what you saw last year, who was good against good defenses last year. And sit him. I like this game. Again, two good defenses, but I want this game to be high scoring. I think it will be. Adams, Renfrow, you start him instantly. No fucking brainer. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, also no brainers. I feel like there's not even much to talk about in this game. You drafted Allen or Williams, one ahead of the other. They go pretty close in some drafts. You like them. Williams is one of those hit or miss guys. Williams is the guy that can put your team on his back. Darren Sharper, hold my dick if you've ever seen that video. Mike Williams can do that. He could score 40 points in a game. He could also take a shit on your chest and screw you over. But I'm fine with that, right? When the upside's there, I have to play that player. So Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, their starts in this game, as well as Adams and Hunter Renfrow. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Now, around a month ago, I was all aboard the Allen Lazard Express. I was in love with the upside Lazard has, and I thought, oh, maybe he's going to be the number 1 receiver. But then there's talk of Romeo Doubs. There's talk about how LaFleur, head coach of the team, says, we don't really have a wide receiver 1. Like, don't draft them in fantasy. He literally fucking told us not to draft them. So I'm worried about Lazard. Could he be the number 1 receiver? 100%. But this is another scenario where I want to see Lazard go fucking crazy against the Vikings on my bench. I want to see him hitting the gritty like he's Justin Jefferson on my bench. Like, that's fine with me. Because while I'd be happy about it, oh, you might be mad. Oh, fuck, I didn't start Lazard. But you're also going to be mad if you start him and the motherfucker gets like 4 points. So sit him down in week 1. Same thing with Sammy Watkins. Watkins is the king of week 1. So if you're getting a little crazy, a little spicy, you can start Watkins. But unless you're in a deep league, why are you going to play Watkins? And then for the Vikings, Justin Jefferson, arguably the number 1 receiver in fantasy this year. In some leagues, he gets drafted ahead of Cooper Kupp. And it seems like that's becoming more and more of a thing. Most people have drafted already. So regardless of where you got Jefferson, you're going to play him. Adam Thielen has been one of my favorite players all offseason. I love Adam Thielen. He scores so many touchdowns. He is a key piece in this offense with Kirk Cousins, and this team wants to be more pass-heavy under new head coach. Makes a lot of sense. Start Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, and then sit down KJ Osborne for the Vikings. Now, we move to Sunday Night Football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys, the rematch. Run it back, Turbo, of Week 1 Thursday Night Football last year. So, the Buccaneers, they've got a lot of injuries at wide receiver. Evans was banged up, but he's good. Evans definitely good to go. Godwin, they're saying maybe he can play week 1. I would be shocked. So shocked if Godwin plays in week 1. Now, I think even if he does play, he's going out there to be like a decoy. I really don't think he's going to play. I really would be shocked. Russell Gage is banged up. So if Godwin and Gage are banged up and not playing, then I'm just going to start Julio. I will. But again, this is in a deeper league. Like, Julio doesn't get my rocks off, right? Julio could suck. But I also think Julio's in a scenario where he could score a lot of touchdowns. So if they're both out, I'll roll out Julio. But even if the corpse of Godwin is out there or the corpse of Gage is out there, I'm not going to play Jones. I think Mike Evans could go crazy in this game, even against Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb up against the Bucs. Tough matchup. Don't expect this to be a crazy game from Lamb, but I think he's definitely start worthy. Could go crazy, though, if this does end up being a back-and-forth affair. Jalen Tolbert, one of my favorite late-round targets in fantasy. Again, I'm waiting it out week 1 against the Bucs. If you're in a deep league, I could play him. But in a normal 12-team league, I think he's best off on the bench. Final game here. The Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. Another revenge game. Russell Wilson up against the Seattle Seahawks. I love Sutton and Jerry Jeudy in this game. I think the Broncos are going to boat race the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Broncos are going to not shit on their chest. They're going to shit in the bag, light it on fire, and throw it in front of the Seattle Seahawks facility. This is going to be a dumpster game. This is going to be an ass whooping of the century. I expect Sutton as well as Judy to play good. And for the Seahawks, like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, realistically are one of the best duos in the NFL at the wide receiver position. The issue is that their quarterback is Geno Smith. Geno Smith. Come on. How can they do that to us, right? You have such an electric duo. Lockett can make he's crazy fast, makes those catches. DK Metcalf, crazy fast, big as fuck. So fun to watch. But their quarterback is some bum that could be starting in the goddamn XFL. So Metcalf and Lockett are sits for me because of the quarterback. I just don't trust Geno Smith, and I think this game might get so out of hand that horsecock Drew Lock gets his revenge in this game and comes into the game. Like, that's how bad this is going to be. This is going to be a blowout. I fully expect it. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that like button down below. It would help us out a ton, as well as hitting that subscribe button. And again, if you have any questions for this week, who should I start, Nick? Sutton versus blank, or blank versus blank. It could be even about running backs or quarterbacks, tight ends. I don't care. Just ask it down below in the comment section. I love to talk to you guys. And it's interesting to see how you guys respond to each other, because a lot of people talk to each other in the comment section, which is awesome. I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy, promo code Stochastic. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy!